Before I show you how to make a batch of kombucha, I just want to mention real quick that it's probably a good idea to read a book on it first before you start making it yourself. And I highly recommend this book, Kombucha, How to and What It's All About. It's a really good book. It was written in the mid-90s when kombucha was the big thing. It tells you everything you need to know about kombucha, like why you need to use a stainless steel pot and a wooden spoon and all that. So I recommend this book. I'm going to show you how to make 1 gallon of kombucha. The first thing you need is 3 quarts or 12 cups of good quality water. I already have 2 quarts in there, so here's the third one. The water is boiling. I'm going to add 1 cup of cheap white sugar. Once again, this sugar is not for us, it's for the SCOBY. Stir it up so it doesn't sit on the bottom. And we're going to let it dissolve for 5 minutes. It's been 5 minutes. I took the pot off the burner and I'm going to add 5 bags of black tea. I'm using this kind of black tea again. Just going to stir it a little bit, get it going. Now I'm going to cover it and let it steep for 10 or 15 minutes. The tea is steeped. I'm going to recover it, turn out the light, and let it cool down to room temperature. Alright, it's a few hours later. The tea is now room temperature. I went ahead and poured it into a gallon glass jar. I just used an old pickle jar. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more water. I'm going to pour in about half a cup of reserve kombucha. Now when you get one from a friend or off the internet, it should come in a little baggie or something with some reserve kombucha in it for your first batch. So here is about half a cup or so of reserve kombucha. With clean hands, I'm going to put the SCOBY in. You just need to rinse your hands off really well. You don't necessarily have to use hardcore antibacterial soap because if there's some left on your hands, it could harm the SCOBY. And I've even heard of some people using distilled white vinegar when they touch the SCOBY. As long as your hands are pretty well rinsed and clean, it should be okay. So here's the SCOBY, putting it in the jar. As you can see, the SCOBY sinks to the bottom, but as it ferments, it'll probably move up to the top, and a new SCOBY will form. That would be called the baby. You can reuse the mother SCOBY in another jar to make another batch, and you can use the baby SCOBY in another jar to make another batch. Now both the mother and the baby will have a baby, and then you would have 4 SCOBYs. Now if you had 4 jars, and you can make 4 batches, and then you would have 8 SCOBYs. That's usually why people have plenty of SCOBYs to give out, because they get a new one with each batch. I covered it with cheesecloth and a rubber band and put it in my closet. The book says it takes a week, but I know from previous experience, and since it's winter time, it might take a week and a half or 2 weeks, but I'll know when it's done because I like mine nice and vinegary. So I'll see you when it's done. It's 2 weeks later and the kombucha should be done. As you can see, there's a new SCOBY on top. That would be the baby. So now it's time to test the kombucha. The technical way to test kombucha is by using pH strips. Good kombucha should have a pH of 3. Now that reads really acidic on the pH scale, but just like lemon juice, kombucha is really alkalizing. As you can see, my pH strips only go down to 5.5, so I know it needs to at least look like that. So what I do is I take a straw, put it down the side, put my finger on top to draw some up, and then just put some on the strip. Now as you can see, it didn't change colors, so I know that it's at 5.5 at the most. So just by smelling it, I can tell that it's probably at 3. So now I need to taste it. Do the same thing with the straw, and taste it. That is really good. It's nice and vinegary, just the way I like it. So the kombucha is now done. So now that the kombucha is done, I'm going to take the SCOBYs out and put them on a plate so I can get a better look at them with clean hands. Here's the baby. And the mother. So the mother had a baby, now I can make 2 batches of kombucha. So now it's time to bottle the kombucha. I went ahead and put some reserve kombucha and the SCOBYs in here while I get everything ready. You want to make sure to use glass bottles and store it in the refrigerator. I just use old GT's kombucha bottles. And some people strain the kombucha, but I don't strain it. I like it the way it is. So all you need to do is take a funnel and just fill the bottles up. So that one batch was enough to fill 5.5 bottles, plus the reserve kombucha, which is really good. I'll probably just drink this one at the end of the video. I was going to show you that sometimes when you brew kombucha, at the bottom of the jar there's yeast sediment, and there's actually not any at the bottom of this one. I'm really surprised. But if you see any, it's okay to leave it there for 2 or 3 batches. It actually helps the process. So I'm going to go ahead and put these bottles in my fridge. It's probably a good idea to make a new batch each week. That way every week you can make a batch is done, you can make a batch is done. You can even buy a really big jar, make a really big batch, and adjust the recipe. But I just wanted to show you guys real quick that I can use the mother to make a batch and the baby to make a batch, and then 2 weeks from now I'll have 2 batches of kombucha with 4 SCOBYs. So I'm going to go ahead and put the mother back in this jar, and I'm going to put the baby in this jar. And I'm going to cover them with cheesecloth, put them in the closet, and then 2 weeks I'll have some more kombucha. So that's it. That's how you grow a SCOBY from scratch and make or brew a batch of kombucha. 5 weeks growing the SCOBY, 2 weeks fermenting the tea. It's even better after it's been in the fridge. So, that is so good. I love it. I like to enjoy 1 bottle a day. It's really great. It's really good for you. It's awesome. So that's it. Have fun. Enjoy.